So just to remind you, this is a Thursday night yin. It's a 75-minute class. It's not that I got carried away and forgotten. We're going to start in saddle pose. So you can use a block. If you want to come up a little bit higher because of the knees issues, then just take the 2 bricks, put them down underneath, and then block on top. That just makes a little bit of a higher purchase for you. And you bring the knees together and then allow yourself to sit down gently. So when you're up on bricks and blocks, it's much easier on the knees. They get a gentle opening and it gives you a chance to open out the ankles. The toes are pointing back, heels are wider than the hips, knees are together, so you get a little bit of internal rotation. And then we just place the hands on the thighs and let ourselves sit up nice and tall and lengthen the back of the neck out a little bit and close the eyes and breathe. So this is really for a number of benefits. One is to open up the knee joints, get the calf muscles to loosen up a little bit and the ankles. But it also gives us time to stack the spine. So we want the pelvis to be in a neutral position. We think about whether we're tilting forwards, backwards or sideways, and then adopting, moving the body around, just tiny little movements, insignificant in terms of how you look from the outside, but make a lot of difference to how the muscles sit. And looking for that optimum point where you can sit without feeling like the muscles are doing any work to hold you up. Now, unfortunately, if you've been slouching in front of a laptop all day, your body's got so used to that that it thinks that is the natural position and isn't taking any effort. So coming upright to start with for a couple of minutes can feel a bit awkward. It's almost like a little bit of a leap of faith to move intellectually into an upright position. Now we'll let ourselves come up and we're going to move into child's pose. So you get a chance to stretch the legs out a little bit. And then we're going to keep the knees relatively close together. And if you find that your knees do sort of suffer a little bit, and then just placing the block underneath the buttocks and thighs can help. And we'll take those 2 bricks. I'll put one at the front. And I'm going to bring one and have it on the higher end, not the highest end, but the higher end of the flat end, and let the head hang down. So the spine is more lengthened out rather than curving. If it feels good, you can take the hands towards the toes. It does mean that you're putting quite a bit of strain through the neck, So you just want to make sure that the body feels happy with that. And we'll try and let the shoulders relax down. The alternative to this is to just bring your hands underneath the forehead and relax the shoulders. Try and breathe into the diaphragm. We're starting to unglue the lower back a little bit. Breathe some space into the discs very gently. Bring the hands forwards, move the bricks out of the way. Coming onto our bellies, coming into Sphinx pose. So we're going to have the feet a little wider than the hips, put laces down, bring the elbows forwards, in front of the shoulders a little bit, and then roll the shoulders back towards the opposite end of the mat. And then we can let the chest sink down. If it feels comfortable, you can just turn the palms down, or you can be on sort of the edge of the hand, let the fingers side. We're trying to let those long lower back muscles that run down and feel like they're connected into your buttocks to release. And we're softening the front of the belly at the same time. Hip position is really a matter of choice. Again, that might come down to how you've been sitting today, or sort of environmental elements that change our posture from sitting upright. And we'll let ourselves come down even further. We're going to come into half frog, so I'll bring the chin and hands together down on the bottom of the mat. Bring the feet together just temporarily, so the thighs are touching, and then as I turn my head out to the right, I'm going to take the right knee out to the side, let the toes follow. I'm going to spend a couple of minutes here, just trying to let the groin open, big muscles around the outside of the hip, and see if we can let the hip bone just sink down to the floor a little bit. So this puts a bit of a twist in the pelvis to the lifted side, and let's see if we can get that to reduce a little bit. So the hips start to sink a little closer to the floor, the twist gets a little less in the spine, in the pelvis. So we'll start to slide the foot back onto the mat. Ease the knee down towards the bottom so the legs can come back together. Carefully start to take yourselves back up into Sphinx pose. So we're going to take the feet out wide again and come back up on the elbows. Let the chest sink. Let the hips sink down. Try and really connect your mind and body together so you can release where you need to. It's kind of strange that when muscles are sore and tired, it takes more effort to let them release. The body hangs on very stoically. We'll come back and take the other half frog. So bring the feet together, chin comes down onto the back of the hands, elbows out nice and wide, let the shoulders relax a little bit, and then we'll ease the opposite knee to last time, out to the side, turning the toes out. Turning the head the same way means that we get an even stretch through the neck to both sides. Taking a moment to scan around the body and see if you're hanging on unintentionally anywhere that you can then maybe release a little more, even if it means moving around a little bit, recalibrating. And then we'll bring that foot back on, lengthen the leg away, wriggle out the hips a little bit from side to side. And I'm going to roll onto one side, you can choose which you prefer to, and then draw the knees in towards the body. Press the hands down into the floor so you lift yourself up very gently for your spine. I'm going to come back into that saddle pose. This time I'm just going to use the bricks to sit on, but they go across, so both sitting bones are supported. You choose how high you need to be, or even if you're able to go right down to the floor. Take a little bit of time to just kind of lengthen the body out. See how it feels. Palms face down again on the thighs. If you find your mind wanders a little bit in some of these long held poses, you can simply count the breaths in and out. 1 to breathe in, 2 to breathe out. You can supplement that with I and am, which brings your consciousness back into the universe. We'll take a last breath here. We're going to come back up onto all fours. Now, if you know that you have a little bit less cartilage in the old kneecap department than you would like, you might find it useful to have a blanket or a rolled up towel or a cushion to place underneath the knees. I'm going to come up onto all fours. I'm going to use the bricks to give myself a little bit of support. Draw the right knee through. Just want a nice right angle here. I'm going to take the foot out a little bit wider than I would normally. And then I'm going to walk my back foot away to let the hips sink down. Can allow myself to bring the blocks to a comfortable position for myself. And then just let the shoulders roll back a little bit. And we can sink a little bit more into that front knee so it comes a little bit past the ankle joint towards the toes, but not exceeding the toes. And the back hips, sort of front groin, drops down towards the floor, and you'll feel that open up more and more and more as your body sinks into the pose. It's called a flying high dragon. And then we'll bring ourselves out of that just by pressing into the hands, bringing that foot back so we come back onto all fours. Might need to walk the knees in a little bit further. Again, if you're using that blanket underneath the knees or whatever, just transfer it across. We'll bring the left foot through, and again, just take it a little wider than perhaps we would in a normal class. We start with the knee over the ankle. Walk the rear foot as far away as you comfortably can, and then bring it down. And then we let ourselves sink forwards that little bit. So it might be only half an inch or less that you move and travel through, but it will be a very useful half an inch. We'll start to move back out of that. So again, press into the hands. Come back onto all fours. Going to take that a little further. This time we're going to take the right foot to the outside of the right hand. And we're going to take those two bricks and just lay them on top of each other, going across the front of the mat. And then see if I can bring one forearm down and then the other forearm down. So the knee hangs out to the side a little bit, the knee pushes forwards towards the toes, the back hip drops down towards the floor. Get a little bit more of a rounded back in this version. This is the low flying dragon. You're not holding this one for as long as the previous holds. And we'll start to lift ourselves gently out of that. Come back onto the fours. Change the props around as we need. And then we're taking the left foot to the outside of the left hand. Walk the back foot as far back as you comfortably can. Bring one elbow, forearm down onto the block. Again, you might need to play around with how far forward that is. how far out the foot sits. My foot tends to turn out to the side, that's fine. Doing similar. And then we can bring ourselves back carefully onto all fours. And we're going to bend the knees a little bit more by taking child's pose again. So hopefully the knees have warmed up enough for us to get all the way down to the ground. And we're going to see if we can get the head to the floor. If you do need to take the knees a little wider, that's fine. And then we'll just take the hands towards the toes. Let those shoulders relax. Breathe into the middle back. And then we'll start to bring the hands forwards to lift ourselves up. So once you do, you're going to slowly untangle the legs and have them towards the front of the mat. I'm going to bring those blocks in, the bricks in. I'm going to take the block towards the back of the mat for my head. And if you've got neck issues, it's actually easier to roll down onto the side and then onto your back. Saves you straining your neck. And I'm going to have my two bricks just on top of each other and sitting out to my right side. I'm going to slowly ease myself down onto the floor. I'm going to come into, it's called a one-kneed reclined twist, which you'd be surprised to realize is actually a one-kneed reclined twist. So we're going to have the left knee high and the right leg lengthened out. I'm going to shimmy the left foot off to the side and take the hips as well. And then start to turn my body so that my hips turn in towards the right side. And as my leg comes across, I'm just going to see if I can place that pile of bricks sort of in between the knee and the ankle, so the sort of calf shin is lying on top of it. I always wanted to try and get the shoulders down onto the ground. So it's a nice easy twist. Now, if you do find that your leg is lifting, that's not a problem. You can bring the knee a little closer in, you can take it a little further away, it's your choice. And we'll see if we can take the arms out wide. Some people like to just place a hand gently on top of that left thigh and knee. Just gives it a little bit more weight to draw down. Wriggle the shoulders underneath to get them flatter to the floor. Turn the head very gently over to the left side as well, if that feels good in your neck. Now we'll slowly come back by just bringing the left foot back towards the body and then rolling the left leg up. Once the foot is on the floor, bring the hips back in by bringing both legs in towards the body. And then we'll simply take our fabulous pile of bricks over to the opposite side. It takes a little bit of practice to kind of work out and judge where you're going to need the props, but plenty of time to get into the pose, so that's good. So just stay here for a moment to kind of release the memory of the twist in one direction before we start the second side. Now we're starting to move the hips out, lengthen the left leg out. And start to turn the body gently. Have a little look and see what we're doing. Move the bricks around so we get as much support under that leg as we can. And then little adjustments to get the shoulders down into the floor. We'll start to roll ourselves slowly back. So bring the foot back towards the body first, and let the knee lift up, bring the hips back into the center. And again, we just have that little time to let the body settle. We're going to move from here into the stirrup pose, which looks remarkably like child's pose to everyone else that looks at it. We'll call it something different. We'll draw the knees in towards the body. Place the hands just on top of the knees to start with. Now the big difference is that if in your happy baby you kind of grit your teeth to reach onto the outside edge of your feet, this one, it's okay to hold on to the shins and the ankles, or even the material of the trousers. So we're going to slide the hands down the shins. See if we can reach the aforementioned outside edge of the foot. But in doing so, you want the lower back to be very much connected to the ground. So you can wriggle out the spine a little bit, wriggle out the back of the neck a little bit as well, get the body very flat and long. And then if it feels okay, you're going to slowly let the soles of the feet lift up towards the sky. So the feet are going to be wider than the shoulders. The shoulders want to be relaxed, but a strong grip through the fingers. You're trying to let the weight of your arms and your legs draw the legs down for you, rather than pressing them in any way. You're just seeing if you can let the hips open, find their best possible place. So some people's knees are going to be almost on the ground, some of them are going to be very high. That's really down to the genetics you had when you were born, as to what type of hips you've got. So outside of muscular stiffness, there's a range of motion that you were born with in your hips, and you're not going to be able to alter that. So we'll let ourselves release from this as well. Just bring the feet back in. Can draw the knees together so they're a little closer in towards my body. I'm going to draw my chin in towards my chest. Slide my arms around my shins and give myself a little hug into a tiny little ball. So this time the spine is going to round off of the ground. And then let myself roll onto my right side. Move around my bricks and blocks. And press myself back up to sitting. So once I arrive, I'm going to take the block, bring that to about 3/4 of the way down the mat. I'm going to come up onto my hands and knees, and we're going to roll myself back into a squat on the block. So I'm just going to line my feet up so that as I go back, my heels pretty much on the outside edge corners of the block. I'm just sitting gently back down into the heels, and play around with that a little bit. And I'm going to try and have the knees stay the same distance apart as my feet are, and pointing in the same direction, which hopefully is forwards. And then I'm going to rest the back of the arms and press very lightly down through the arms and the shoulders, so I can lift the chest a little more and draw the belly in, and at the same time be letting myself sink as deep as I can into the hips. So keeping the thighs together kind of requires a little bit of effort to squeeze them back into the center. And we're going to release from there. So just bring the fingertips back on the floor. I'm going to move my bricks towards the front of the mat, and I'm going to have one either side of the mat. I'll move the block out of the way. I'm going to take the fingers forward still, and then just lift the hips up and the head down so I can move into a forward fold. And walk the hands in a little bit more towards the toes. Draw the belly in, lift the hips high. I'm going to lengthen the spine forwards a little bit, coming up onto the fingertips. And as I exhale, fold back down. Inhale, come right up onto the fingertips. Draw the chest forwards a little bit. Exhale, fold down. Come up onto the fingertips again. And let myself fold down. I'm going to soften the knees quite a bit more, and then bring my hands onto the hips, shoulders and elbows back. Start to lift the chest forwards, drive through the thighs, and lift up. Nice and easily. And then from there, I'm going to saunter towards the front of the mat. Let's lean down a little bit and bring those blocks on their highest end, about shoulder distance apart, towards the front of the mat. So we're going to move into pyramid pose, and I want the feet to be about sitting bone distance apart. I'm going to take a little breath from here and just lean into the left foot, slide the right foot back until it feels like the toes are getting close to lifting off the ground, and then I'll sit the heel back, so I'm moving further away from the front of the mat. Two straight legs, keep the hips square so they're pointing forwards, and the feet. Draw the belly in and let myself slowly come down. Now I'm going to try and draw the shoulders and elbows back as they lengthen out. Once I get to about halfway, I can bring the hands down and just adjust them directly underneath the shoulders. So they might have been too far away, or they might have been too close. It depends a little bit on the size of your body, your limbs. We're going to try and press the tailbone back, both feet down, so we push away from the ground. Both heel of the hands press down. We try and draw the chest forwards a little bit. And draw the belly in. So you should be able to feel the muscles in the thighs on both legs lifting. And then to come out of this, we'll soften the front knee, bring the rear foot into a line with the front foot, soften the knees again, bring the hands onto the hips, and let ourselves lift up with a nice straight back and just shake everything out. And then I'm going to take the weight into the right leg and slide the left foot back, with hands on the hips, let the heel come down. Again, remember we want about sitting bone distance apart, so not too wide, but also not too close, otherwise it feels like you're standing, on a gymnastics beam. Just draw the shoulders back and the belly in. Once you feel the legs are strong underneath you, you hinge slowly forwards. Now, the more slowly you come forwards, the more easy it is for the hips to stay stable. And you get less chance of pulling muscles in the legs. You bring the hands back down again. We lengthen out just as we did before. So we press the hips back and both feet down so it feels like we've got really straight legs. Lengthen the chest forwards, drawing the belly in. That might feel very different, one side of the body to the other. Again, you're trying to keep the hips so the groin seems to be over the center line rather than hanging out to the side. It can sort of get carried away and follow the front leg a little bit out to the side if you're not careful. Again, just that matter of a few millimeters of movement might make all the difference to how your hips sit and where the work is being done. It's easy to feel it in the back of the legs. That's pretty obvious, but it's what's happening inside the hips is the juicy bit that we're looking for. Okay, we'll take a little breath from there. We'll soften the front knee, bring that rear foot in to line up with the front foot. Soften the knees a little bit more, keep the spine nice and long, bring the hands onto the hips and let ourselves lift up. So pretty gentle. Good to move those two bricks off to the side. So we'll be needing those for a while. Sometime next week, to be quite honest. And step right up to the front of the mat. Again, if you have the feet about sitting bone distance apart, bring the hands in towards your heart. Yourself lengthen up nice and tall. Feel a little bit of a difference in the texture of your buttocks and backs of your legs. On the next exhale, we're going to start to hinge forwards and down slow. We're going to soften the knees and take the weight into the toes. And bring ourselves down to the floor. Fingers touch the ground, and then we'll take in the right foot to the back of the mat into a big step, into a lunge. And we're going to slide the heel onto the ground. So the foot is a little bit forwards, on toes forwards, heel back. Try to keep the hips over the center line of the mat. We bring our hands onto the front thigh to lift up. That's a slow lift. We keep the knee in position, turn the chest to the long side of the mat. The hips stay turning out a little bit of an angle. And then we bring the hands in line with the shoulders. Look out through the fingers on the front hand. Now from here, we're going to take the hands behind, interlace the fingers, and then squeeze the shoulder blades back and draw the hands down towards the floor. We're going to try and draw the ribs down towards the hips so that the chest doesn't flare too much. Then we'll turn the chest towards the front of the mat. Extend out slowly, and we're going to lay the body on top of that front thigh. Start to lift the hands towards the sky as we breathe in, and then on the exhale, we'll sink the body and let it slide into the inside of the thigh so that the shoulder on the left side of our body is kind of just resting on the thigh, stopping it going further. Crown of the head is down to the floor, back leg stays pressing down. We try and keep the groins over the center line a little bit, it does pop out to the side. So we need to bring it back just a fraction. We'll take one more breath here, release the hands and bring them to the floor in front. Spin the heel on the back foot, take a little press in the back toes and into a forward fold. And the feet parallel, hands over the hips, soft knees, and we'll lift back up. We'll take the hands out wide and lift the hands high. And then bring them in towards the heart. We'll exhale down. We'll do exactly the same again. So we'll come down nice and slow. Letting all the air escape from the lungs. We'll take the left foot back into the lunge. So front knee stays over ankle, and then we turn the back foot so the heel drops down to the floor. You might want to adjust a little bit, tweak it. When you feel happy, bring hands onto your front thigh and you can lift yourself up gently. Turn the chest long side of the mat. Keep a little bit of a diagonal line through the hips. Check that the hips feel like they're balanced. So your spine is sitting nice and upright. And then you can extend the arms out in line with the shoulders and look through the front fingers. So the back leg is going to feel like it's working just as much as the front. You'll feel your buttock and your thigh lift a little bit. There will be movement around in this pose. It's a big, strong pose. As you breathe and settle, the body kind of moves into lots of different places that you didn't know were possible. And bring the hands down behind the back again and interlace the fingers. Squeeze the shoulder blades, draw the belly in, ribs down. Take a couple of breaths here. And then we're slowly going to turn the body forwards. Carefully lay down over that front thigh. Start to lift the hands up as we squeeze the shoulder blades together. Take another breath and slide the body gently onto the inside of the thigh, trying to get the shoulder to become a natural resting point for us. Again, hips over the center line. And we'll let the hands come to the floor. Spin the heel on the back foot. Push off the toes into the forward fold. Soften the knees a little bit, lengthen the spine, hands under the hips, and lift up. So we're going to just develop that a little bit further. We'll bring the hands up towards the sky as we breathe in. And into the heart. Exhale slow and low down to the floor. We'll take the right foot back. Drop the heel in. Check the front knee is safely positioned over the ankle. Bring the hands onto the front thigh and press down to lift. So you're just pressing down through the front shin, really. Now open up into our warrior two. Take the hands behind. Interlace. Squeeze the shoulder blades, ribs down. Slowly turn. Exhale out. Keep the body long. And then lift the hands. Slide down that last little bit. Now we'll release the hands down to the floor. Only this time, I'm going to spin the heel on the back foot. Let the back knee down onto the ground, and we'll bring both hands onto the inside of that front leg. Untucking the toes. I'm going to spin the front foot so the toes are out to the side a little bit. Let the knee move out that way as well, and then bring my left hand onto the inside of my left thigh. We'll just turn the body into a gentle twist. Now, I'm not trying to be lifting away from the floor, so I'm really starting to work to press into this right shoulder down so the chest can open. And then I'm going to bring the left hand back down to the floor. I'm going to tuck the toes on the back foot underneath as I bring the front foot back into alignment with the center line. Lift the back knee gently and then walk the fingers around to the long side of the mat. So walk slowly into very wide-legged forward bend. Have both hands on the floor about shoulder distance apart. And I'm going to keep it nice and simple. I'm going to keep the spine very long. Send the tailbone back and the crown of the head forwards. Push away from the ground a little bit so I'm not sinking into the shoulders. I've got a nice long back. Shoulders are protracted. Both feet have got an even amount of weight through the sides and the backs and the front of the foot. So you do need to kind of connect your mind to your feet and how they're pressing down into the floor. They should be pressing down enough to feel the inner groins working a little bit. And keep the belly drawn in as well. And then we're going to walk the hands around to the front end of the mat. So spin both feet, come back into a lunge. Take a little press on the back toes. Lean into the front leg a little bit to help you lift forwards. Bring the hands onto the hips, long spine, and lift up gently. Put the hands high again as we breathe in towards the heart. Draw the belly in. Soften the knees just a fraction. The left foot goes back into that big lunge. Drop the heel in. Bring the hands onto the front thigh. Lift up slowly. Find that balance. Open up into our warrior two. Lengthen out through the fingertips. Shoulders relax down. Bring the hands behind, down to the floor. We'll rotate slowly, lengthen a long flat body out with the thigh. Lift the hands, take a breath, slide it in gently. Again, I'm going to let the hands down to the floor as we exhale. Spin the back heel and let the back knee down to the floor as we untuck toes. Both hands come onto the inside of the front foot and we spin the foot out to the side a little bit as we untuck the toes. We come into that twist. So opening out the knee to the right this time, lifting the chest to the right side. And then bring the hands back. And as we tuck the toe on the back foot, front foot spins round. We lift the back knee and we slowly walk the hands around, long side again. Allow ourselves to use a hands shoulder distance apart. We press away from the floor. So a little protraction in the shoulders. Crown of the head lengthens away. We press the feet down. We kind of slowly build the pressure up through the legs. And we'll start to walk hands around to the front end again. So we come back into lunge. Bring the fingers forwards. We press off the back toes. And coming forwards. Soften the knees a little as we bring the hands onto the hips and lift up. Take the hands high one more time. Bringing hands into a heart and fold forwards. We're going to step back with both legs and bring ourselves to our knees. And then I'm going to walk around to my right side. For no other reason than I forgot to mention about making lots of space. So we need to do this. We're going to come into gate pose. So I'm going to slowly take my right foot, tuck the toes underneath and lengthen the leg out behind me. And then slide the big toe along the floor until the foot comes out to the side down the center line of the mat, so it's 90 degrees-ish. And I want this thigh of the front leg here that I'm leaning on. I want that thigh to be completely vertical. So if in the case of taking the foot out, you've kind of overextended a little bit, then you bring yourself back and you try and square the hips up and the pelvis. And you can press the foot into the floor very lightly, so you start to get some engagement here, but also in the outside top part of the hip. And then we press the shin down on the bottom leg that we're kneeling on. And keep the head in line with the rest of the body. And then to release, we're going to take a little breath, slide the foot back, and allow ourselves to come back down onto the knees. Now, staying in position, we're just going to do the same to the opposite side. So the left leg lengthens out, slide the foot round, all of the obstacles I forgot. Check the leg position. You might need to move the hands around a little bit so you feel more on top of things. Press down into that foot. Draw the belly in a little bit. As you press down, you'll start to feel your thigh working. It might not feel the same on both sides. I can truthfully say that on my first side, my thigh and my hip felt very happy. It's more of a challenge, more exciting on this side. And then we'll start to bring that foot back, slide it around, bring the knees back in, and I'll take the hands towards the front of the mat again. I'm going to sit down on my bottom just for a moment so I can reach back to find the block. And I'm going to come into Dandasana, so you can take the feet out and then eventually forwards. And the feet are going to come together and then flex the toes back. So big toe, little toe, same distance from your body. The way we achieve that is to rotate the thighs inwards a little bit. Bring the hands either in line with the hips or a little bit further back, whatever's easier for you, more comfortable. Bring it on the fingertips. And then we're going to lengthen the chest up. Notice that as you do that, your belly kind of automatically draws in. Keeping the flex in the feet and lengthening the heels away. And being very careful not to press the knees down. So I'm going to release from there and take this into a seated twist. So I'm going to take the left foot underneath and out towards the right hip. Make sure the sitting bones are connected evenly on the block. While the left knee is pointing forwards as I take the right leg over. Tilt the pelvis forwards a little bit so that the spine lifts. Take the right arm up to the sky as I breathe in. And then I'm going to wrap it over and take it out towards the left. So it's called an open twist. I'm still going to use the fingers on the back hand to press down into the floor. Let the chest lift up and see if I can look over the rear shoulder. And we'll release from there nice and gently. Untangle the legs. And we'll do the same on the opposite side. So right foot underneath and out to the side. Sit up tall, draw the left leg in and across. Left arm up and then turn it into the open side. And then release from there as well. So we're going to take an option here called Heron's Pose, and we'll use our strap as well. So I'm going to start this with taking the left foot underneath, but rather than taking the foot round to the outside of the hip, I want it more in a position where the heel is more sort of in line with the sitting bone of the right leg. So now my left thigh is pointing out sort of 45 degrees to the side rather than pointing forwards. And I want the shin to be on the ground. And then I'm going to take the strap around the sole of my right foot and draw that in towards my body. And take the strap and bind it gently around my fists. So we do that gently. So as I lengthen the leg out, I can just let the grip open up a little bit and let the strap slide through and then pinch it just at the point where I want to. So it's kind of like self-adjusting. And draw the right knee in towards the body and extend the leg up. At this point, I'm going to draw the shoulders back and draw the knee in towards the chest and sit upright as much as I can. Just letting the body get used to that from a balance point of view. So I'm starting to use that front leg, the shin that's down on the floor for balance. So I want to lean into that rather than leaning back. And once I think I've got my body used to the idea of that, I'm going to slowly extend the leg up. Let the hands lift a little bit. I'm going to try and get my big toe kind of in line with my eyes. And the leg to be as straight as it can be, which might be quite bent, not a problem. Now, some people will be able to naturally take the leg higher, that's fine, not a problem. And some people will be lower, again, not a problem. We're just trying not to lean back too much. I want to rely a little bit on that front leg to lean into. It kind of activates the core muscles a little bit more in the spine muscles rather than balancing. We're holding ourselves up. Slightly different feeling. Last breath, and soften the knee and bring the foot back down, and we'll take it all into the second side. So legs come out in front, the right foot comes in, the heel, as I said, lines up sort of where you think your sitting bone would be on the left side, and then you lean into it and get the shin down onto the floor. Now on the block, it's easy to do and get into that position. Take our strap again. We'll take it around the sole of the foot. Now I'm using a double thickness of the strap. You could use one, it's not a problem. Take that nice, gentle bind. Let myself sit up nice and tall. And then lift the knee in towards the chest, draw the shoulders back, and sit up tall. So take a little bit of time to get used to relying on that front leg. Down on the floor. And then when you're ready, you're going to take an exhale and slowly extend the leg up. Draw the shoulders back. Try and have the foot up towards the sky. On this side, my hip tends to turn out and twist a little bit, and therefore my leg follows that. So I have to work at getting a bit more feeling of internal rotation through that. And again, lifting the foot up to about that eye level-ish. The leg as straight as you can manage, so you press out through the heel a little bit. Keep the foot flexed and spread the toes. It feels a little bit easier with the strap around the foot. Take a last breath here. And then we'll release that foot down to the floor. Easy as that. And then we're going to come into Shavasana just for the last few minutes of our class. So I'm going to come down onto the ground, move the block right to the back. Again, I'm going to roll onto the side of my body, so keep it nice and easy for my spine. Roll onto my back. Allow myself to get comfy with my bricks and blocks, cushions, etc. Wriggle and line out the spine. Let the hands come down by the side of the body, and then slide a heel gently out to each corner of the mat. Now, the sliding of the heel along the floor is more important than it might seem. I want to try and keep the mind and the body and the nervous system closer to the parasympathetic nervous system. So we just want to not rush, take our time sitting into this pose. Let the natural curves of the spine dissolve a little bit underneath us. Connect with our breath. Let the tongue move away from the roof of the mouth. And start to slow our breath down. We'll very gently start to stretch those fingers and toes. Allow the wrists and the ankles to revolve around. Yeah, you could if you wanted to, if you're doing this class again on a recording. Take a much longer Shavasana if you wished. And to take a big breath in and then exhale, let it stretch our body out. And then slide the heels along the floor again, very purposefully. I'm going to let one knee at a time come into the body, so I can just bring the hands on top of the knees. And I'm going to stir myself a little bit. Make some tiny circles with the knees in the air. You can do this, or just rock from side to side. Or hold on to the shins and draw the knees a little closer into your body. When you're ready, I'm going to take a breath in and just ride gently over to the right side. Take a breath on the floor as we turn into a little ball. And then press into the hands to move smoothly back up. And we come into a seating posture that feels comfy. Let the spine lengthen. Ease the hands in towards the heart as we take a breath in. On the exhale, let the chin drop. Bow down gently to the floor to seal our practice. Inhale, let the spine lift. Opening the eyes. Namaste. Thank you for joining me. Have a lovely rest of the evening.